Then theories of evolution. The theories of origin of life is different from theories of evolution. Okay? The theories of origin of life is how life came on this planet. The theories of evolution is after life is there. There have been many theories of evolution that have explained how does evolution happen and what drives the population to become a new species. Okay? Uh, some of the theories, one is Lamarck theory of evolution. Lamarck is a person's name. This is a person. In the 19th century, Lamarck published a paper entitled Philosophic Zoologic, in which he described the two-part mechanism by which change was gradually introduced into the species and passed down through the generations. This theory is also called theory of transformation or Lamarckism. The two parts of Lamarck theory are use and disuse theory and inheritance of acquired traits theory. Use and disuse. So Lamarck suggested that a structure or process in organism that can be used continuously will become enlarged or more developed, while those that do not deteriorate. According to Lamarck, giraffe had short neck, but they stretched their neck to reach high branches, developed an elongated neck that is used to it. As the giraffes use their neck, then the neck gets long. The wings of penguins would have become smaller than those of other birds because penguins do not use their wings to fly. Then disuse to it. As they are not using their wings, then it gets what? Small. Inheritance of acquired traits. Lamarck believed that traits changed or acquired during an organism's lifetime could be passed on to its offspring. For example, giraffes that had acquired long necks would have offspring with long necks. Here is very Lamarck is known by this theory or this giraffe's idea or giraffe's neck. Here, original short-necked ancestor. The neck is short. Then this ancestor strives to reach to the branches of trees. That is their inner need. They want to reach to the top of the canopy. They hate to graze grasses. Okay, that is their need. He also says the inner need is also contributes to the evolution. Okay, this is not the case today. Keeps stretching neck to reach leaves higher up on tree. Then you can see compared to this one, this reaches to the top of the tree and stretching. Then until neck becomes progressively longer. You can compare this neck with this one. Okay? This is Lamarck's theory of evolution. Note that nowadays Lamarck's theory are not accepted because the environmental changes that were believed by Lamarck have brought about the changes in the phenotypes, that is, physical appearance of the organisms, which have no effect on their gametes and hence their heredity. The other theory of evolution is Charles Darwin and natural selection, or it is called Darwinism. The origin of species by means of natural selection, or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life, the survival of the fittest. That is Darwinism. In 1858, Charles Darwin and Alfred Wallace jointly published a scientific paper that proposed species were modified by natural selection. Natural selection means, when you say natural selection, the natural environment is, or natural features select organisms or affect organisms. Darwin visited 5 of the Galapagos Islands. These are the islands in the around Latin America, I think, made drawings and collected species. In particular, Darwin studies the finches. These are birds found on the different islands from the 5 islands, and noted there were many similarities between them. Similarity between the finches or the birds, but have some obvious differences. For example, these are the Darwin's finches. Darwin's theory of finches on the Galapagos Islands. Here they are birds, they are more or less similar, but there are also some differences. For example, insect feeder finches, you can see the beak, okay, the beak size or the beak shape. Cactus feeders, you can see the beaks or the mouth part of the bird. Then seed eaters, then you can see tool users, the beak is here, you can see, and insect feeder other groups, you can see, and vegetarian, you can see. Then they come from what? Believed that they come from ancestral finch, from the same origin on the Icelands. So this is based on what? Natural features. Natural selection, or their feeding habit is one of the natural feature, the natural process that makes them differ from one another. That is we call natural selection. Darwin concluded that an ancestral finch had colonized the Icelands from mainland and been able to adapt to the different conditions on the Icelands and evolve into different species. For example, he suggested that some finches had evolved into insect eaters, then pointed beak, other into seed eaters, crushing beak, to crush seeds. Okay, then the beak developed into that structure. Darwin summarized his observations in two main ideas. All species tend to produce more offspring than can possibly survive. That is actually true. We call this fecundity. There is a variation among the offspring. Okay? There is a variation among the offspring from one parent. From this observation, Darwin deduced or concluded that there will be a struggle for existence between members of a species because they are over reproduced and resources are limited. Some members of a species will be better adapted than others to the environment because there is a variation in the offspring. Okay? There is variation as we have seen. Darwin proposed those members of a species which are best adapted to their environment will survive and reproduce in greater number than other less adapted, then finally they will die out among the reproduced members. New Darwinism or Neo-Darwinism. Neo means new. After Darwin, that is the today's theory of evolution. So Charles Darwin knew very little about genetics and did not propose how variations in the population was passed to the next generation. There was no idea of genetics, idea of genes, how traits passed from generation to generation. Nowadays, genes and gene action are the driving force of evolution in the theory of natural selection. So natural selection is related with the genes, the variation of genes that we know today. A gene pool is all the alleles in the population. When we say gene pool, the collection of genes, okay? That is the collection of genes in a population. When we consider evolution, we have to consider population. We shouldn't consider an individual, okay? Because with an individual, there is no evolution. Never, never. It might be evolve a population into a new species. Suppose an allele determines a feature that gives an organism an advantage in its environment. The following will happen. Okay? If some alleles give an advantage for organism that possesses that, then the following will happen. A change in population is just consider this point. Okay, the change is in population, or the evolution is in population, not in individual. So those individuals with the advantages allele of a gene will survive to reproduce in greater numbers than other types. Okay, the advantages alleles, organisms which possess the advantages alleles will reproduce more. And advantages allele pass to their offspring in greater numbers than other alleles. The frequency of the advantages allele will be higher in the next generation of a population. Mutations are important in introducing variation into population. Mutation is what? Considering gene and chromosome or genetic material. So from here you can understand that where the evolution takes place is the ultimate source is the genetic variation, the gene variation. Okay? So any mutation could produce an allele which increase in frequency if they are beneficial or advantageous in their effect, may increase slowly, stable or decrease if they are neutral, and decrease and could disappear if they are harmful or disadvantageous in their effects. So that is the combination of different alleles, advantages and disadvantages alleles. New neo-Darwinism is a modification of Darwin's original theory that takes into account genetics and ethology. Okay, the combination of both genetics and ethology, because during Darwin's there is no knowledge of genetics. Today there is knowledge of genetics. Then today's idea of evolution is, or theories of evolution is, the combination of genetics and ethology. What is ethology? Behavioral patterns can also be advantages or not. Ethology is a study about behavior. So, for example, how ethology or behavior matters is, in this example, you can see young bees imprint upon the first moving object after they are hatched. Okay, these are the kind of birds after their hatching, they imprint means follow as their mother. Okay, they don't know. It's following their mother. The chicken following their mother is the behavior. That is from the adaptation. They follow from that adaptation the non-mother or even non-living object. Okay, that is ethology or behavioral part. So the today's theory of evolution is a combination of genetics. So genetics, you can think about the genetic science, about the heredity. So the combination of these two things. Finally, I want to ask, did humans evolve from apes? Uh, does science is saying that? No. Amazingly, the intellectuals which are out of the biological science or which do not know these things uh, think that scientists or evolutionists says the humans come from apes. No, they, there is no such science. The science or the evolutionary science say that the apes and other all organisms share common ancestor. Okay, human and other organisms have similar ancestor. Therefore, don't misunderstand that evolutionists are saying um, apes, human come from apes. No, evolutionists do not say that. They put science as a science. They collect evidences. They investigate. Then they do such things. And they put the ideas as theories, which including unexperimentable ideas. So consider these things when you consider evolution. This is that. Here is a common ancestor. It is not simple to tell what is a common ancestor. It is unknown, considered in such a way. So time increment. Then here is different organisms. Consider there are a lot of organisms here, but considering human beings and the chimps or the apes. Here is a common ancestor, then the lion is here to this direction, and then the human development is to this direction. It is believed that the ancient, the old fossil is the Lucy, Australopithecus afarensis. Then from that, and other human like creatures come, and finally the today's human species, Homo sapiens, come. Okay, that is the science of evolution. Thanks for watching. This is all about the series of videos on genetics and evolution. Bye bye.